What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy and welcome to another FPL video. Today it's the Game Week 6 preview. Pretty eventful week in Game Week 5 for me. The wildcard has been played, worry not. You're not going to have to hear about my personal wildcard anymore, although I'm sure we're still going to talk about them in the coming weeks. People are already using them ahead of Game Week 6 and probably a few more over the international break that's coming up soon. But mine is gone, so I'm going to quickly run through that, then go through the preview. Not going to do too many notes on the review of the week and just look forward to Game Week 6. So let's just jump straight into it. So like I say, Game Week 5 was pretty good for me. I got 91 points in total after my wildcard, which left me on a Game Week rank of 78,154. But I am recording this on Monday night. The results are in, so I know exactly how many points I've got and my total score. But I don't know my up-to-date Game Week rank or overall rank because I've still got some points to come off the bench in Van Bissaka. That's included in the 91 total, so no worries about that. But obviously other people will have auto subs and ings and players like that tonight who would have played. So my overall rank, I would expect it probably to remain around the same, maybe drop a little bit, but that's up from 476,000 the week before, so we're looking at a 350k boost in rank, which is amazing at this time of year. But obviously the points are still quite close together, so your rank's not too important this week. Obviously you want it to be as low as possible throughout the season, but things can change very quickly, as evident this week. So just to quickly go through this, Wolves smash it. So I brought in Doherty, very attacking. We're going to talk about him a bit more in the preview, and I got Jimenez instead of Ings because Jimenez has got 4 fairly good fixtures from Game Week 5 onwards, whereas Ings misses one and he's got Chelsea at home, so not so good. So I went for Jimenez and they smashed it, 20 points. But like any good FPL manager, I'm still not happy because there was a really good chance for both of them to score more throughout that game. And there was even a point after that goal where Jimenez played in Doherty and he just couldn't put it away, even though either side of Joe Hart and it was a goal. There was no one else around him, through on goal. Bit unfortunate, but the way the week went, I can't complain too much. Then looking at Alonso, him and Salah were the only 2 players to blank. It's probably not too often that's going to happen this year. Obviously Ryan in goal as well, but outfield players, it was just Alonso and Salah. And then the Mendy injury luck. So he has a small injury as far as we know, nothing too bad about it. So hopefully he'll be back next week. And then Van Bissaka come off my bench for 9 points, which was really nice. Then Hazard unstoppable. So one of the reasons to wildcard was to get David Silva and Hazard in. Both performed, 31 points between them. I have to say that I didn't think Hazard had too many goals in him. He goes and scores 20 points, a hat-trick. We know he's got penalties, that's always going to help him. So a ridiculous score from him. And then David Silva pays off, the underlying stats were there. Obviously Man City, a team that scores goals, so he comes through. And he's one of those players as well that when he scores, he tends to do pretty well on the bonus system, a bit like Hazard. So when he gets an attacking return, he gets bonus too. So loving that. Maddison, bit of jam. Vardy was off the pitch and he got a penalty. So he's been a bit unlucky with his points so far, I would say. But hopefully, just because of the fixtures they've got and the way they kind of play around him and stuff going through him, that he can keep up the points coming. And then more Aguero points, but where's the goal? So a couple of assists, but still no goals since Game Week 2. Probably not too much to worry about because he's ticking over, creating a lot of chances and shooting a lot as well. With their fixtures to come, I'm not too worried. So, like I said, good week for me. I won't go into it anymore, but 91 points. Fingers crossed I can kick on now and get into the 100k, top 100k going into Game Week 6 and beyond. So into the preview, got 0.3 million in the bank now, only 3 chips, not including the second half of the season wildcard, so I've used my wildcard now, and 1 free transfer. I'd say, having a quick look at my team, the one mistake I think I probably made was the 4.5 million set and forget keeper with Ryan. Now you shouldn't expect too many points from a 4.5 million keeper anyway, but they've been shipping quite a few goals, and I think there's possibly better options, potentially Patricio, but I didn't really want to triple on Wolves' defence, and I had Jimenez anyway, but Fabianski, Foster and players like that could be better, but Brian got a nice run of fixtures, or a better run of fixtures after the next couple, so I was thinking a bit longer term with him. But going into the points again, not necessarily about my team, is Hazard essential? Now, it's very hard to say he's not. Obviously, he's not blanked at all this season. He's central to everything that Chelsea do. He's on penalties. He's much less than Mo Salah, only a little bit more than Mane. So there's a lot of things to convince you to do it. Even at the start of the season when he didn't play, or didn't start games, he was still getting assists, so he looks really good. The only thing I would say with the fixtures, maybe a little bit iffy, a West Ham away game, I think that's an okay fixture, but then Liverpool and Man United as well in the next 4. Now, it depends how you look at them. So West Ham, I think, is a good fixture. Liverpool at home could be tough, but we know the way Liverpool play, that there's going to be opportunities for Chelsea and Hazard to attack. And also, if he's playing down that left flank as well, Trent Alexander-Arnold's been really good since he's come into the Liverpool setup. He's kind of kicked on ever since he got his chance to get in that first 11. But he does often, maybe not through any fault of his own, but he does get isolated sometimes because Salah doesn't necessarily track back much. and if the midfield three don't necessarily get over to help out, then he gets less isolated, and I think Hazard potentially could get in behind there. So Liverpool maybe not the worst game in the world, and then Man United the same. Hazard's caused Man United quite a few problems in the past. We've seen Mourinho kind of stick Herrera onto the pitch just to mark Hazard. In one game that went really well, and another he got sent off, and in the FA Cup final we saw Hazard get the penalty and then convert it as well, causing problems for the defence. So I think those fixtures are okay. They could be better, but obviously with two top six teams in the next four, I could see why you might be a little bit put off. And obviously his price is rising as well. I think he's up to 10.8 million at the time of recording this as well, which is quite expensive. So the other thing is, who do you bring him in for? So a lot of people have got Salah and Mane, and they've got Southampton at home. So I could see an argument for potentially keeping the Liverpool boys and going one more game without Hazard and seeing how it goes. But if you do that, then you've got to bring him in ahead of Liverpool, and it gets tougher and tougher. So sometimes with players like this, when they're in this form, even if the stats are not quite that great, so he's not shooting too often. He's scored 5 goals from 6 shots on target, which is pretty good conversion rate, but probably not one that's sustainable. But because everything goes through him, he's going to get plenty of chances, I think. And hopefully if he can up that shot volume, he's definitely going to keep up this run of form. Not 20 points every week, but right now he does look almost essential. Don't like giving that tag to many players, but not blanking and pretty good run of fixtures, an okay run of fixtures. I think he's worth bringing in. And then looking at Wolves, so they've got another good run of fixtures, apart from they've got Man United away. So people have already got in Wolves players, you're looking pretty good. Those looking to bring them in, maybe not on wildcard, then they got Man United away, which isn't great. But then Southampton at home, Palace away, Watford at home, Brighton away. So nice run of fixtures there. Doherty, 3 chances created, 3 goal attempts against Burnley. And he's beaten Alonso for shots inside the box for this season. He's 4.4 million. There's not going to be much longer that he stays at that price. He's definitely going to increase in value. You got Johnny, the other fullback, looks good as well. Bolly's good for bonus. Patricio in goal. Jimenez up front. I think you've got a good set of Wolves players there that you can select from Wolves, and they've got a nice run of fixtures, and they're all really well priced as well. So Diego Jota maybe not quite performing how we hoped he would pre-season, but he's looking better and better, not getting the final points yet, but he could be a look at in the future as well. But for me, Doherty looks the best option there at 4.4 million. I'm glad I've got him in. Then Jimenez up front, we'll talk about cheap forwards in a minute, but I think he looks a good bet as well, after the Man United game, of course. And then Aguero and Mendy injuries. There's Champions League this week, so we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. It doesn't sound like they're going to be too bad, but the lineups in the Champions League will tell us a lot, and hopefully I'm sure Pep will give us more info on them, especially if it's not around the Champions League before the next run of Champions League fixtures. So I think if you can help it, if you're not wildcarding, you should wait on transfers as much as possible unless money's really tight, because there's loads of top 6 teams playing, and we obviously want to see how they do. Hazard, will he play in Europe? You'd assume probably not. They'll probably play a B team, but just in case, you might want to wait on that. So I'm not doing anything with those two at the moment. If Aguero was out, then I'd probably look at someone like Lukaku. If Mendy's out, it's a bit trickier actually. I might go for Laporte as a boring safe option, or maybe Pereira or Chilwell from Leicester as an attacking option, and just save a bit of money. Potentially even get Robertson back in because I've sold him. But for now, with Champions League matches, you should probably wait on them. And then looking at Richarlison back and kind of Everton in general. So the next game is Arsenal away. But then they got Fulham at home, Leicester away, and Palace home. And Leicester have only kept 1 clean sheet all season, so that run of 3 is pretty good. Richarlison did really well in the opening 2 fixtures. We'll have to see if he comes back and continues that. But I think just the way he was playing, and Everton really need him. They need him back in the attack. They need things to go through him for him to cause problems in the defence. So he's definitely going to come straight back in, I think. Probably don't need to worry about him too much against Arsenal, but from Fulham onwards, that's a nice run. So I'd definitely start looking at him. And also, just to mention another Everton player is, hopefully I get this pronunciation right, it's Digne, the left back. He started the last 2 games. He's got 1 assist to his name already. And against West Ham, now, to be fair, West Ham were pretty poor. But he created 4 chances and had 4 goal attempts. That's pretty good for 1 game. And he put in quite a few, or at least a couple of crosses that were really good that I think Nias hit the bar from, and Tozen should have done better. So looks like points could come from him again. Probably not against Arsenal, but Fulham, who are conceding quite a few, that could be a good game for him. So for 4.8 million, I know Everton defence isn't necessarily a go-to, but he could look really good for you. And then Spurs fixtures are turning, so they've had maybe a slightly tougher run. To be fair, they're not really performing that well, and I'm not sure I would jump on their players. But if you want a bit of a differential, you could look at the fixtures they got: are Brighton away, Huddersfield away, Cardiff at home, and West Ham away. So a lot of away fixtures, but good teams to play against. You got Trippier, who was left at home for the Champions League. So he's not going to feature, so he's going to be fit. You'd assume he's going to play against Brighton. Perhaps you'll see that a lot with Aurier playing the Champions League games and Trippier playing in the Premier League, which would be great. He's on set pieces and quite attacking, always good for assist potential there. So I would definitely look at someone like Trippier for those games. And then keep an eye on Son as well. I don't know how he's going to affect him, and Lamela kind of affect Lucas Moura. I think Lucas Moura is potentially holding Kane back a little bit. And obviously Spurs need to change something like, because the last few games haven't gone too well for them. So I would expect Son to come in sooner rather than later. And 8.3 million, if he can get his place back and carry on as he's done in previous seasons, then he looks a great buy for 8.3 million. And it's one of the reasons I got David Silva, because he's 8.5 and you can potentially switch to Son. So I definitely keep an eye on him. And then budget forwards rock. So there's nothing more to say really other than keep an eye on them. If you've got two £11 million forwards, they're not really performing that well, or at least that much better than these budget forwards. Now, the budget forwards are that price for a reason. Of course, you don't expect them to keep that up for the whole season, but the likes of Jimenez, Ings, Mitrovic, Wilson and King are all doing pretty well. King maybe padding his points a little bit with penalties, but Wilson looked pretty good again. Mitrovic again's got a nice run now. Ings maybe a little bit iffy. He can't play in game week 6, and like I said earlier, he's got Chelsea at home in game week 8, I think it is. So you're probably not going to look at him right now to bring in, but when he's back or got a better run of fixtures, you could look at him. And like I said, Jimenez after Man United I think looks really good as well. So yeah, lots of budget options. I think I went with two of them. I think it's the right move right now. You could go up to the likes of Vardy for 8.9, Lacazette for 9.5, but these cheap boys are smashing it. And when you've got 2 or 3 premium defenders, it's absolutely needed. And then lastly, before we talk about captains, is persevere or Arsenal. Now, they've got Everton at home and Watford at home next. So I can see why people are getting rid of the likes of Aubameyang. I know some people have bought in Lacazette. I think that looks like a pretty shrewd move. But I just think Aubameyang against the Everton defence, especially if Coleman is out, even if he's playing on the wing, could cause problems. So if you've got him, I can see why you want to get rid of him, especially if it's to fund like Hazard or someone like that. If there's not a move that you really need to do, I'd be tempted just to keep him, give him one more game. And I know that's easy to say when I'm not the owner of him, but I think Everton own could be good. And if he does well in that, maybe gets a bit of confidence, gets a few points there, gets into some form, then Watford at home and Fulham away is not a bad couple of games to follow up on that. So potentially persevere with those Arsenal players. Not too sure about the defence still, but Aubameyang and Lacazette I think look pretty good. Even Ozil was chipping in with a few attacking returns, and Ramsey played again, so it looks like Mkhitaryan's out of favour. You've probably got to get rid of him, but if you've got other Arsenal attackers, you could look at keeping them, especially if Aubameyang's up against John Joe Kenny. We'll have to see what happens with Coleman in that game. And then lastly, just to wrap up really, is captain choice. So the big ones, at least for me, are Salah, Aguero and Hazard. So I've kept Salah all this time. I say all this time, I know it's only 5 weeks, but it feels like forever for this Southampton game. So I've got to captain him at home. I think Hazard, I think West Ham were really poor against Everton. I know they won the game, but I think a better attacking side would have punished them, and Chelsea are just that, especially in the form they're in at the moment, and Hazard especially. So I think Hazard's an outside, I don't know if you can even call it a punt now with how well he's been playing, but given that a lot of people will go Salah, I think he's a little bit of a punt. Like last week when lots of us went Aguero, you could go for Hazard again, and you could even go for Aguero. Cardiff away, yes, Cardiff will try and play tight and keep it tight, but like Warnock said against Chelsea, it's very unlikely they're going to keep them out, so they may just go for it, and that could be a blessing in disguise for Man City. So keep an eye on the injury news there. But if you wanted to go different against Salah, if you've got rid of Salah and you're not going for Mane against Southampton, I think Aguero and Hazard are just as good this week. And I've kept Salah, so I have to go through, but I think he's going to do well anyway with the way he's been playing and kind of the underlying stats and stuff like that. But a little part of me does think now, did I really need to keep him just for this one captaincy when Aguero and Hazard look so good as well? So let me know in the comments below who you're going with out of those three, or are you going for someone different completely? I'm definitely going to stick with Hazard. I think I've got to, after keeping him all this time. Obviously, it's his best fixture for the next 3 game weeks. So after that, I'll captain Hazard and Aguero, depending on the fixture. So yeah, that's the preview. I'll leave it there. Let me know any comments you've got about what I've said, and yeah, let me know who your captain is. So that is that for today's video. Thanks as always for watching, much appreciated. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new around here, and hit the bell so you're notified when the next video goes up and when I'm next streaming, which will be 9:30 PM on Thursday UK time. Around 9:30 anyway. I'm probably going to be slightly late, but it shouldn't be too delayed, maybe 15 minutes at the max. And obviously leave comments below, let me know any questions you've got. If you've got any counterpoints to what I said, you disagree, agree with anything, all the points I made, if you've got any other questions, captaincy choices, things like that, leave it below, and either I will or a lot of the community are getting back to a lot of those questions as well. So it's worth putting a comment below. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you later. Cheers, everyone.